Welcome back. My name is Matt Reiners, and I am the co-founder of Eversound, which was recently acquired by Uniguest, which is a company committed to developing engagement technologies to help communities connect and improve the quality of life for older adults. Today, I'm joined by Sharon Ricardi, the president of Northbridge Advisory Services. I've gotten to know Sharon over the years, and she doesn't know this, but when I first got into the industry, I was like a fanboy from afar, just seeing all the awesome stuff that she has been doing, and just being an industry executive and professional, and I've just always been a huge fan of her, and so happy to have her on the call here today. Sharon's been a regional director of ops, a national director of memory care programs, a VP of ops, a senior vice president of ops, and now president. So thanks for joining me today, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Yes, and President, I will say, of Northbridge Advisory Services. So finally, Matt, I worked my way up to the point where I could tell other people what to do.
Perfect. Hey, we're all striving to do that, right?
We really are. We're
Yeah.
striving to not have to do it ourselves anymore, to tell other people what to do because of what we've learned, right?
Exactly. And no, hey, I'm right there with you. I'm all
Yeah.
about delegation to people that can do it better than you anyway, right? I mean, that's always the game plan there.
And one of the best things about being in the advisory business, because I get to travel all over the country and find out that there are many, many ways to have a successful assisted living and, memory care and so forth. There's not just one way. So when we do advisory work, we learn from each other and bring each
Yeah,
other up that way. So it's been a wonderful experience. I love it.
that's awesome. I feel like we could have a whole other episode of what you've learned on the advisory side, but maybe we'll come back for a part two.
Yes, I'll give you one. Trust but verify. That's the biggest thing we've learned.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. And I can definitely relate that to my own life, professional and personal. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
you're absolutely right, Matt. Hmm.
So, Sharon, you're in this president role now, but can you share a little bit of your background and how you got into senior living?
Sure. It's such a circuitous route. It would take the whole podcast to tell your listeners everything that I've done. But I will fast forward to about the middle of it. So I was running a VNA for a hospital system in Massachusetts, and this was in the early days of assisted living. And they decided to build an assisted living and asked me to run it for them. And with great trepidation, because it was like, I'm going to run a hotel and, healthcare and food service. So, needless to say, I said yes, fell in love with it immediately. It was just a wonderful experience. And from there, I joined Benchmark. As you mentioned, I was an ED for the nascent Benchmark when Benchmark was just starting, and then became a regional for them, and then went to Newton Senior Living. And that's when, the whole journey from running a VNA for the hospital through all of my experience, there are two things I always kind of worried about. Are we doing a good enough job taking care of people with memory care issues? And what happens to the people that can't afford this? So, which is what we're going to talk about today. So, then I became, as you said, VP of Ops for Northbridge, a senior care, Northbridge Senior Housing. I should get that right, and then senior vice president. And then I was able to, move into advisory. And Jim Coughlin and Wendy Nowakunski, who run Northbridge, were kind enough to kind of let me take time in my professional time to explore affordable senior housing, because even though we didn't have it and we still don't have it, they saw a huge need for it. So they've let me kind of go in that direction with their full support. And now we're, dipping our toe in affordable housing, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, and I know that's where we're going to spend a lot of time here today. And just from my an outsiders looking in, like, yeah, there's definitely a big opportunity in affordable. I think everyone talks about how much senior living costs and stuff. So I think you guys are smart to do that and help a lot of people along the way too, which is what it's all about at the end of the day. So Sharon, first question about that affordable is like, what are the current challenges and barriers preventing affordable assisted living for seniors, and how can we overcome them?
Sure. So when I talk about affordable, I always like to define it somewhat,
Mhm.
because it's almost as ill-defined as independent living. What does that even mean, right? Everyone
Yeah,
defines
yeah,
it differently. So, but three basic categories. So we have market rate, which is what most people know. That's where people build in an area and charge as much as a senior can reasonably afford and is willing to afford for that service. So that's probably 85% of all the assisted living in our country is what we call market rate assisted living. So there aren't subsidies for it. So people, pay out of their own pockets, usually a combination of spending down their assets and their income. So, and it can vary hugely in cost, and it's very dependent. Like Boston, we both are very familiar with Boston.
Mhm.
Boston is a high barrier to entry market, the suburbs of Boston. Hard to get in, land is high, building is high, staffing is high. So that is costing, upwards of $10,000 a month for most of that. Whereas in other markets, in suburbs of Atlanta, for example, where there's lots of competition, housing prices are lower, income is lower, you can get assisted living for $3,500 a month. So but that's still market rate. That's still, more and more unaffordable for the next tier. So the next tier is what we've been calling middle market. NIC has gotten into that. They've done a study. NIC, the National Investment Center, did a study on that, two-part study. I spoke at NIC actually on the middle market, and that's we're trying to define that. So basically, they say that that's the people who maybe are blue collar, pink collar, I should say, pink collar. So they have too much money to qualify for subsidies, but not enough for market rate assisted living for the whole amount of time they're going to need it. And people are living longer, Matt. So they're having to plan for more years now that they might need assisted living. So they might be able to afford 4 years, but that they might need it for 8 years and they're not able to afford it. So middle market is where a lot of attention is going. And then there's the true affordable market. And I say that with a capital A, affordable assisted living. And there is organization that is named that. And so those are the people who need a subsidy. We need it from, traditionally it's a Medicaid waiver that subsidizes that. So that's at the level that people who really don't really have an asset, maybe they were never a homeowner, so they have maybe a little bit of savings in their Social Security. So there's in 43 states we have the Medicaid waiver that will help them. Unfortunately, we'll talk about that later, but unfortunately they generally don't pay enough for most operators to want to get into that market. But there is at least that, fail safe in 43 states, plus the District of Columbia, actually. So those two, middle market and I should say those two, market rate and affordable, are really all you see. That's like 95% of what we have in this country, whereas middle market needs to grow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had a few people on over the years to talk about the middle market. And yeah, I see it popping up at every conference and whatnot. I'm sure you crushed your presentation at Nick too about that.
Of course I do.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I wouldn't expect anything else, Sharon. And, I think when we think about the affordable side, it can't just be the person living there and the provider, right? So, how can community partnerships, collaborations between healthcare providers, housing developers, and government agencies help to address the affordability issue in assisted living?
Yes, exactly. So, well, community partnerships are extremely important, and it's something that we are, we're spending a lot of time with figuring out how to do this, because if we don't do it, we're going to be paying for it anyway. We're going to be subsidizing nursing home stays for these people that don't need nursing home stays. We're going to be looking to pay for additional housing for people who can't afford that. So we're going to be paying more in home care delivered to their homes individually, which is not an efficient way to deliver care when you're going from home to home to home, as we discovered during COVID. The congregate setting is a much more efficient way to deliver this. And, we also, want to remember too that we have to think of the dignity. These people might have been your dog groomer, your post office worker, people you relied upon. And now they get to this age and their options are few. So, we're needing to have those relationships relationships with, and there's all kinds of smart people out there working on this, but we need to find, those ways that we can partner with. We need to partner with our state, with our federal government, and with private partnerships. There are grants out there. We have HUD, Housing and Urban Development. They want to help us with this, but we have to come together and find a way that makes sense and is sustainable, because assisted living is expensive to run. It's not just expensive to build. It's expensive to run because it's high touch. It's a people organization, right? So those partnerships, really need to come together to make it successful.
Yeah, and I think that's, always the question, because you bring up a great point with assisted living being high touch, right? And like, labor costs, especially very specialized labor costs, is expensive. And, do you have any thoughts on like around what potential cost saving measures or strategies that assisted living facilities can adopt without compromising that quality of care?
Yes. Well, what's happening a lot in our marketplace right now is older market rate product is not selling as well to the younger people, right? So buying an assisted living community that's maybe 25 years old at a really good price, that's one way. You're purchasing it at a huge discount to what it would cost to build it. So that then can be a way to turn what would have been a market rate, what was a market rate community, into a middle market community. And there's lots of examples of that, including ones that we're involved with, where you buy it at a good price. You find efficiencies. Maybe you don't do every bell and every whistle. You can cut down a little bit on the cost of food, because I will tell you, most seniors are happy to have home style cooking. They don't need it to be particularly fancy. They need it to be familiar and well done. You can find maybe you have volunteers to come in and help you with activities. You're combining. A lot of places are looking to universal workers that can do more than one thing. Aides are our biggest cost, and because they're the professional that we have the most of in our building. So if they can do something else, whether it's activities or serving in the dining room, driving the van, that type of thing, then that stretches your staffing dollar, because that's your biggest dollar, is how much you spend on staffing. So all of those, as well as looking for subsidies. I'm always looking for that. If you're a not-for-profit, there are grants out there that you can get. In my first assisted living, I applied for a grant. I wanted to do music therapy for my memory care residents, and bringing in musicians and so forth is costly. So I got a grant that we were able to bring in 3 professional music groups a week for our residents. Wow. It was fabulous. It was fabulous. And it really, it had a lot of, it was through the Robert Woods Jones Foundation. And it really was, it's like the best medicine for people with, active memory loss, to be able to move to that part of their brain where music is still accessible to them.
Yeah, which is, one of the things I've read is, music is one of those last things. And I just reflect on my own life, if I am fortunate enough to live that long, will I be listening to like Eminem, and that will kind of reminisce stuff for me. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Oh, we in this business, we talk about you all the time. Your group, about what that's going to be like. It'll just be normalized because it'll happen gradually.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things too, I'm always very curious about, and my question here for you is, how can we ensure that affordable assisted living options are inclusive and really cater to the diverse needs and preferences of seniors from different backgrounds?
Yes, that's a good question, and such a complicated answer. As I will tell you, first of all, because people are living longer, it's, you're designing for a group of people that might have 50 years age difference in their age, because people are living until 110 now. So, you might have somebody that's coming in around 60 with, an ongoing health issue. So they're needing assisted living at a younger age, right through to 110. That's 50 years. Imagine if you had to design a a college course for someone from age, 20 to age 70. That's just a huge diverse age. So we're really trying to broaden what we do. And I always say too, you need to meet people where they are. We're involved right now. Hallbridge, which I'm a part of, is involved with a project in Washington, D.C., first assisted living ever in Ward 7, which is an area that has a lot of people who need affordable assisted living, as you can imagine. And we went to them to say, what do you want? There were all kinds of things that we might have done in Boston, bocce. They're like, no, we don't do that. Here's what we do. Here's what we want. Here's what's very important to us. And we designed that because, and the staff needs to reflect what they look like. You need to feel like you're still part of a community. They want to go to the familiar places that they've always gone to. They want to do the familiar things, and they want to eat the familiar food. And that's what we all want. So respect of that is really important. But we also try not to separate people by income. So we try to have communities that you can have, you can be middle market, and you can be the lower end of affordable and still be there. We don't want to create projects. Remember the projects in the 60s that they made with, let's just take all the poor people and put them over there, and no one that has any money will live anywhere near them. And it was completely obvious that if you lived there, you had no money. We don't want to create that. That's nobody wants to live like that, where you're segregated just because of your finances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely don't want to create the senior living projects. Makes it complete sense. And you kind of talked about what you guys are doing in DC, which is awesome, and Ward 7 you guys are doing. That's awesome. I want to give you and your team kudos. You're doing such important work. But is there any other successful examples or case studies of communities that are offering high quality, affordable care to seniors?
Yes, definitely. When I first got into this, when I first was interested in this, I did a lot of research and traveled to different states. And, I just want to give a shout out to Wayne Smallwood. Wayne in Illinois really started this whole movement of the affordable assisted living. And he was involved with lots of groups there. And there's a very robust network in Illinois of affordable assisted livings that they worked with the state to get, because this is such an important thing, the Medicaid waiver. So it's part of the frail elder waiver. People call it the few waiver. So that's the box that has to be checked by the state in order for the state to have the funding to allow someone to have a truly affordable assisted living. As I said, 43 states plus the District of Columbia have it, but most of those 43 do not pay enough that operators would even ever get funded to build an assisted living, because the funding isn't there to allow them to do that. What you see in those states is like a community will have put 5 units aside for them, but it's not enough to truly develop. Whereas Wayne and his state said, let's do the math. Come on, we can do the right thing and it will still save the state money. So they were able to get the rate to a level where it makes sense for people to do. Providers aren't going to get rich off of affordable assisted living, but if you can't make a living, no one's going to do it. So you have to make a reasonable profit, or this will not happen. And if people keep waiting for just the not-for-profits to do it, or the religious affiliates to do it, there will never be enough housing for these baby boomers. The youngest, the oldest baby boomer right now is 77. So how we've been talking, oh, the baby boomers are coming. Well, they're here. There's no more, they're coming. And by 2030, all the baby boomers, this just blows my mind, but all the baby boomers will be 65 years or older by 2030. So that's just, it's a huge amount of people that are coming our way. So everyone has to get involved in doing this. And you need to talk to your local officials to say, okay, we have a Medicaid waiver. What does it pay? Could you run a business on that much? If you can't, then it's a waste of our time to think that we have solved that problem in our state. And I can give you loads of examples of states that haven't solved it. Massachusetts doesn't even have it at all. So. Wow. As you can imagine, I've been working on that for many years too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's near and dear to your heart. But it makes so much sense too. you got to make some sort of money coming out of it, or the money just won't, they tend, why would you do that if you're a business person and trying to invest in something? So, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And then Sharon, my final question here for you, if you just had to give other providers 3 guiding principles as we move through the rest of 2023 or looking at the next 12 months, what would you say?
Yes. So one thing I would definitely say is you have to think out of the box and be innovative. You have to. One of the things that is good for both affordable and middle market is reuse of something not used. I just read that a defunct mortuary in California is being made into affordable housing for affordable assisted living for seniors. Schools, demographics change. This town used to need a lot of schools. Now there's not as many young kids, schools close. If you can get that school at a reasonable price, maybe tax credits are hugely important. Low income housing tax credits give people a tax break so that they can afford to rehab or buy something. So those are huge. So always be innovative and look at any opportunity to find a spot that will cost you, because you have to pay so little for the building because your operating costs are going to be so expensive. The second one I'd say is be collaborative. There are people who, like I always tell people, call me, ask me questions, I'll tell you what I know, you tell me what you know. Be collaborative, know the shortcuts. This is not information that should be proprietary. Just like with Alzheimer's research, we have to share our information. And in this affordable housing, we have to share our information. So call who you know. Be involved in the state decisions. You have to get involved with budget decisions and so forth to just keep pounding away, because they've got a million priorities. We need to make senior housing one. And I'll give you a bonus one. Here's a bonus one. Don't underestimate the cost of staffing. Staffing is just as expensive for low-income housing, because if you're not providing good care, you're not going to be proud to own or work for an affordable housing group. So be smart.
I love it. Well, Sharon, this is just so much knowledge packed into this episode. So thank you so much. It's awesome having people like you in this industry and, in these leadership positions to really continue to drive it forward. And I'm just so grateful that people like you are leading the space. So thank you.
Thank you. And shout out to you, because we need our seniors to be able to hear what we're doing. And your group does a wonderful job with Eversound. Love it.
Appreciate that. Well, thank you, Sharon. And we'll see you on the other side.
If you'd like to know when we post the next episode, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're interested in how Eversound can help improve the quality of life in your community, find out more at eversoundhq.com.